start now. I mean, just do it. Of course, there's no perfect time to start. If you're into astrology and you want to contact an astrologer about an auspicious date to get married, open your store or launch a new product line or begin a new concert tour. Okay, well, that's fine. That's why you'd have to plan. I can understand that. But for everything else, the best strategy really is just to jump into it and get started. Lean into it. Don't put things off. Waiting for 12 doves to fly over your house and as a sign and a cross is not going to happen. You'll never do it. It's procrastination. Morning, Karen. If you want to be a public speaker, fine. Schedule a free talk with a local service club, a school or a church group. Just have a date that will put a pressure on you to start rescheduling and researching and writing your speech. If it's too big of a stretch, then join a Toastmasters or take a speech class. You want to be in the restaurant business? Well, get a job in a restaurant and start learning the business. This is a classic. When I was looking at McDonald's franchise or KFC franchise, this was years ago, I was going to take some time and work in McDonald's or KFC to see what it was like first, just to get the experience. You want to be a chef? Great. Enroll in a cooking school. Take action and get started today. You do not have to know everything to get going. Just get into the game and you'll learn by doing it. So the author Ray Bradbury, famous short story, said, first you jump off the cliff and you build your wings on the way down. How classic is that? First you jump off the cliff and you build your wings on the way down. You're going to do it pretty quick, aren't you, before you hit the bottom? Don't get me wrong here. I'm a big proponent of education, training and skill building. If you need more training, then go ahead and get it. Sign up for that class and that seminar now. You may need a coach or a mentor to get where you want to go. If so, then get one. If you're afraid, so what? Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's the reality, as Dr. Susan Jeffers says. The key is just to get started. Quit waiting until you're perfectly ready. You never will be. It will never happen if you don't. Just do it. So Jack Canfield started out his career as a history teacher in Chicago High School. He was far from a perfect teacher. His first day of training. He had to learn a lot about the classroom control, effective discipline, how to avoid getting conned by that slick student, how to confront manipulative behaviour, and how to motivate an unmotivated student. But he had to start somewhere anyway. And it was a process of teaching that had learned him all the other things. Most of life, and understand this, is on-the-job training as we go. It's a classic, jump off the cliff, build the wings on the way down. Some of the most important things can only be learned in the process of doing them. You do something, you get feedback, all about what works and what doesn't work. If you don't do anything for fear of doing it wrong, poorly, or badly, you'll never get any feedback, and therefore you'll never get to learn and improve in what you're doing. Again, I come back to saying, when Jack Canfield first started in business, he started a retreat in a conference centre in Massachusetts. He went to a local bank for a loan. The first bank told him he needed to have a business plan. He didn't know how to do that, so he got a book on how to write a business plan. And this is classic for me as well. When I first started, I did a thing called Fife Employment Gazette. It was one of my projects to actually get me some skills in building a business plan and building a business. And it was all about recruitment. Way before the Employment Gazette hit the shelves, which was actually 6 months later after my idea. But they thought bigger. And then way before the internet, way before Indeed, and way before S1 Jobs and places in monster.co.uk. So I did all that beforehand. I just didn't think big enough. And I didn't see the opportunity I had to take it further. But it gave me life skills and what I needed to do to learn to where I am just now. So they told him that there were a bunch of holes in his plan. And they asked him where and when. He asked them when and where, and they told him. He went back and rewrote the plan, filling in the areas that he'd left out that were unclear or unconvincing. Then he went back to the bank. He said the plan was good, but they wanted to pass. I remember going for my first buy-to-let loan years ago, over 27 years ago. And I've had filled everything out. I'm an accountant by trade, so I'd actually made sure. And I'd done all this before. This was Fife Employment Gazette. This was other things on the Graduate Enterprise Programme I'd been on. I'd learned to do all these things beforehand. When the bank manager got to the end of the conversation, he actually asked me, "What did you have for your breakfast?" I was taken aback. And I said, "Why are you asking that?" He says, "Well, you've told me everything else. You've given me no option but to say yes." And he did, and the rest was history. So Jack had asked him who might be willing to fund the plan. They gave him the names of several bankers in the area who might respond favourably. Again, he went off to the bank after bank, each one giving him more feedback until he honed the plan and the presentation, to the point where he'd actually finally obtained a $20,000 loan that he needed. When Mark Victor Hansen and Jack released Chicken Soup for the Soul, they thought it'd be a good idea to sell the book in bulk and quantity and to larger network marketing companies, thinking they could get them and give them and resell all their sales force to motivate and believe in their dreams and take all the risk, therefore achieve greater success in selling. He got a list of all the companies that belonged to the Direct Marketing Association and started cold calling all the sales directors of larger companies. Sometimes he couldn't get the sales director to take his call. Other times he was told, "We're not interested." Several times he was told nothing, and they just hung up on him. But eventually, after getting better and better, through the right decision maker and properly discussing the book's potential benefits, he had made significant sales. A few of the companies liked the book so much they hired him to actually be a motivational speaker at their conventions. And he leaned into it. I remember Fourth Post Authority telling me, "I'll never amount to anything." The guy that was sitting there says, "You'll never amount to anything. Your business plan's got so many holes in it, you've got no chance." Well, he's maybe still working, and I retired at 38-year-old. Jack was a little scared of making cold calls, yes. He didn't know what to do when he started. He'd never tried selling mass books in quantity of anything before, and he had to learn as he went. But most important point is he just got started and he got into communication with people he wanted to serve, found out what their dreams and aspirations and goals were, and explored on how their book could help them achieve their objectives. Everything unfolded because he was willing to take a risk and jump into the ring. You too have to begin from somewhere for where you are to start taking the actions from where you want to be. And remember this famous Ray Bradbury quote: "First jump off the cliff and then build your wings on the way down." And I'll see you tomorrow.